Makena Morley. Welcome to the Steep Stuff Podcast. How's it going?
Good. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. I want to throw a big shout out before we get started to Jonathan for helping connect us. I'm just so excited to have you on. I feel like after following your trail races this summer, I was like, oh, this is a perfect kind of segue to be able to have you on for a conversation. So stoked to do this.
Thank you. I know. Excited. Yeah. New to the trail world. So
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk a lot about that, which I'm
love
stoked on to
it.
ask you a million questions on how you're liking it so far. I guess before we get started, like maybe give me like the 5-minute elevator pitch. Like start with Hawaii. Let's talk about like where you came from and where you're at now.
Okay, amazing. Try to make it short. But yeah, basically I was born and raised in Maui, Hawaii. My parents moved there. My dad wanted to windsurf. So, not really any like ties to Hawaii, just like wanted to windsurf. Moved back to Montana when I was 7. My parents are both from Montana. So came back here and, we were from the Flathead Valley, originally. And so then, I kind of started running when I was in 6th grade. Really, because I was actually like really out of shape and my mom was like very worried for me. So she was like, you need to run to get in shape. And I was like, oh, I hate running. And I kind of started out as like a sprinter because I was like, that's cooler. And then kind of got into distance running and kind of fell in love with it. Became kind of successful in middle school, and I think that always helps you fall in love with something a little faster. And then kind of took it from there, and then ran at the University of Colorado for college, and then now I run professionally for ASICS, and I'm based out of Bozeman, Montana. So kind of long story, yeah, or that was pretty short, but
yeah, amazing. I appreciate that because I feel like it's perfect to get the audience kind of recapped on you as the person. I want to talk about your upbringing with like mom and dad as far as like being heavy influences. And I understand your dad was a sprinter and mom also had a distance background as well. Can you talk about just how much of an influence that was on you and maybe your siblings as well, kind of growing up and getting into running?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, my dad sprinted in high school. He sprinted at the Montana State University here in Bozeman for a couple years. So he was like definitely more of that like short, fast twitch guy. And then my mom, she kind of got into running, more just to be like become fit. She got into like those local fun runs and stuff. So she was the one who kind of started, making running, like long distance running, look fun to us. Even my dad, we were all like, we'd go to, I think the first big race she did, still one of like my family's favorite races, is Bloomsday in Spokane, Washington. And we went to watch her and we were like, whoa, this thing is like massive and it's so cool. And all these people are doing it. So then my dad became curious. And then kind of around that time I was going into middle school and I had the opportunity to join middle school cross country. So I was also fairly out of shape and my parents were like, okay, let's get her into something that will, let's like get her in good shape. And I think I had run a president's physical fitness test, at some point, did a mile and it went like, okay. So they were like, okay, she might be okay at this sport. But yeah, honestly, like my dad and I both really started distance running around the same time. So, he's been like me and him have like quite a bond with that where we kind of started it together. My brother and sister kind of came along a year or so after that. And so we all kind of ran together. But, my mom, her name is Jill. She's the real starter of this whole long distance running thing in the family.
Shout out to Jill. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
Go Jill.
All right, let's shift gears. I want to talk about going to college. I know you started your career in Montana at the University of Montana for college first, and then transferred over to the University of Colorado. What was it like, especially like with your experience and getting really good in high school and then transitioning to the collegiate level? What was that like for you? Were you heavily recruited out of high school? Was there a lot of options for you? Like, what was the reason to stay close to home? Stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was pretty heavily recruited out of high school. I was one of the better high schoolers, especially in cross country coming out of the nation. So I think, I'm kind of a homebody and I love Montana. So I definitely, talked to the other schools. I even did talk to University of Colorado too at the beginning. And I kind of was just like, oh, it's a little far away. And, I kind of ultimately chose University of Montana mostly because it was close. I ended up kind of having not a great experience there with the coach. So I moved away and went to University of Colorado. But that honestly was a pretty big jump for me. I feel like, me and a couple of other these people that I was like, we were kind of doing really well at Foot Locker Nationals, those type of high school meets in high school. And then we came to college and you're like, whoa, this is a different animal. Like there's, 150 people as fast as you. And so I think that was definitely like a big jump coming from, especially Montana where, the state has some good runners, but there's not, a huge depth of it. And so I think, coming into a place where you're like, whoa, okay, I'm like pretty far down the totem pole now, and having to work into that was like, I think, a really growing experience. Especially when I transferred to University of Colorado, that was great because, not only there's a lot of people faster than you in the collegiate level, there's a lot of people on your team who are also a lot better than you. So I think that was like huge in like learning how to like be with teammates. I'd never really had, other than my siblings, I hadn't really like had teammates that, you run with. So that was like, I think, a really big part of me growing into myself as a runner and learning a lot was making that kind of step into University of Colorado. But yeah, once you kind of learned the team atmosphere and learned how to like race with other people out there, it was great.
So that's interesting to me because I've met so many folks that competed Iowa State and like a lot of very like prestigious universities at the D1 level. And it's very mixed. Like a lot of people hated their college experience.
Yeah.
And a lot of people had great experiences as well. Just for you, both as an athlete and a student, would you grade it A plus, B? Like, what would you grade it as if you had to look back on the experience and say, I got a great experience here, or was it difficult?
I would say A, because I feel like I learned a lot from it. It was very difficult at times. I'm not going to say it wasn't. There's always stuff that happens on collegiate teams that are like a little iffy. And so I feel like, you're just kind of, you learn a lot. I think from my teammates, it was a very like, a lot of my best friends are from University on the team. And I still am like very good friends with them to this day. So that has been huge, those like friendships that you make and relationships. But I mean, it's also a pretty cutthroat environment. So I think it's something, that's day to day, like you teaches you a lot and you become, it can either like destroy you or you can be okay. And I think luckily I became okay in it, which is good. I don't really know why. Lucked out. But yeah, I would say an A, like, school was great. I liked majored in anthropology and like English creative writing. So I'm definitely more of like a writer, that type of side, which, great schooling experience. And then, yeah, the team, there was definitely like times that was very hard, but I think it, made me grow as an athlete.
Amazing. Can you talk about, I think the trail world that listens to this podcast would be familiar with a few names like Aaron Clark, Adam Peterman,
Yeah.
a lot of your schoolmates and teammates at the University of Colorado. Can you talk a little bit about, just connecting with them? Did you know them before, or did you get to meet them when you got to the university? Like, how did that play out?
Yeah, great question. I mean, one of the big reasons I kind of even looked at University of Colorado when I was transferring was I was very good friends with like Adam, my boyfriend, my Zach Perrin, he was there, and then there was another Missoula kid named Chris Herrick, and they were all in at University of Colorado. So I was like, well, I know these guys really well, so it was like very nice, a kind of a seamless transition to be able to come into University of Colorado and like have these people who I kind of looked up to and known pretty much all through middle school and high school. And then Erin Clark, I did not know before I came, but I remember her. I remember I also thought, I was just telling her this recently, I thought she was like 6 feet tall because all I saw of her was posters. I'm like, oh my gosh, this girl is 6 feet tall and she's like an insane runner. And I was like so intimidated by her. And then I got there, I'm like, oh, she's not that tall. Like, or 5'6". I don't know how tall she is. But it was so I did not know her till I got there. But honestly, Erin's one of my best friends. She is one of those friendships that I made in college and like continue to have with one of my best friends. She was a huge mentor to me. She was 2 years older than me, and I kind of really followed in her footsteps. She's just an incredible racer, a very good teammate, and just good at everything that has to do with running. So she was a big person that I learned from in college, but did not know her previously.
So cool. I just find it so interesting and neat that like a lot of the names that pop up, and even like, wait, were you there along the same time Tabor was there? Tabor Shaw?
Yes, Tabor and I are the same age. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
so crazy.
I think
Everybody
she's
knows
like,
everybody.
I know everybody. No, Tabor came in and then she like took a little bit of a break from school for a second. So I think she's technically like a year below me in school, but me and her are the same, like we're the same age. So yeah, I know Tabor very well.
That's funny. What a small world. What was, I don't know. I want to shift gears too to talking about like the professional aspect of it. As you're getting out of college, obviously you graduated from college at kind of a crazy time, 2020, 2021 era. And at that time, you're obviously just deciding to go professional, looking for a pro contract. Can you talk about that time in your life and kind of just how crazy it was? It was just a different time in the world.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I graduated in 2020. So I guess like my last, I don't even know how long was not, we were kind of remote for school. So graduated online. And yeah, it was like a really weird time. So I feel like we were kind of mourning the loss of, not having an outdoor season. Cause I think, for a long time I was actually at indoor nationals, didn't get to race, but we were there when they called off everything. And so it was like it was just kind of a crazy time where you're just like, man, I'm done. Like there's not really any like, no like whistles or like, anything big. So that was interesting, kind of just like getting over that. And I think it, honestly, there was a little bit of a silver lining in that where, you missed that whole indoor and outdoor season, but then you kind of got way more time to like actually work with brands and talk to them. Whereas like usually it's like, you like get an agent and then you've got 2 weeks and you're like signed and it's like all super fast and condensed. Whereas like, I think we all had, kind of like multiple months. Like we talked to I call it like dating agents. You almost feel like you like talk to them, see which one you like the most. And then you find an agent and then, and then I feel like, I work with Rayflin and then, they kind of helped, me work with different brands. But it was great. It kind of like prolonged the process and made it like a little bit less stressful, for it being COVID. So yeah, and then I just, talked to multiple brands and ultimately I kind of wanted to be, I wanted to speak a little bit more on my own. Like I love having a team. But I knew I wanted to be back in Montana at some point. And I originally actually went to Boise first, Idaho, to train with Emma Bates for a couple months and then ended up coming to Bozeman, Montana. But yeah, I wanted a brand that, would allow me to kind of pick and choose where I was at. And ASICS was that brand. So yeah, that's how I picked them and they've been great ever since. So yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I have so many ASICS questions just because I'm just, especially from the trail side, I'm just amazed at what they've been able to do recently. And
oh yeah, they're doing good.
But before we get to ASICS, I do have a question. Why? I just think of like so many athletes coming out of UC Boulder, as far as on the running scene. A lot of athletes stay in Colorado. What was the pull to, I guess, go to Bozeman? Was it more family? Was it friends? Like, what was the reason?
Yeah, good question. I mean, Colorado to me is like it's kind of like Montana, but I like Montana more. You're from Colorado, so I know you're in Colorado, so I love Colorado. But I pretty much just always kind of was like, I mean, I love Colorado. It's an amazing place to go to school, amazing place to go visit. Honestly, it's probably a better place to train because it's a little bit less wintry. I mean, you guys get really harsh winters, but like it's a little bit better sometimes than, Bozeman is at least. And so, I feel like I just kind of I just love Montana. It sounds kind of funny, but I just like, I want to come back. And then, yeah, honestly, family's huge too. I'm pretty close with my family. So being within like, 2 to 4 hours or 5 hours of my family was a pretty big thing for me. So yeah, that's why I wanted to come back. It was definitely a move that was a little bit scarier just because like, there's not as many people to train with here. There's, it's definitely worse. Like the winters suck, for running. And so I think it was one of those moves where I was like, hey, let's try it. Let's try coming back home as a professional runner. Like in high school it worked, but I wasn't running very many miles in high school. So like, let's see how this works as a professional. And it's been okay. I've definitely had some ups and downs, with that. But yeah, the big pull was just, family. But Colorado is awesome. Every time I visit, I'm like, this is pretty nice here. I know why people like it.
It's, there's trade-offs. I mean, I have to be honest with you, like that. Why I find Wyoming and Montana, I personally, and like Idaho, kind of like the three of those better than Colorado, even though I live here. But it's always like a grass is always greener on the other side kind of thing. Yeah. It's like, there's trade-offs.
There's a little less density. There's a little less people.
Yes, I think that's what I'm getting at. Yeah, it's the amount of tourists. What is it like as far as training partners and having people to run with? I know Grayson Murphy has kind of been. I think she's back in Bozeman. Is that correct? Or back in Montana? I know she's had to have like you guys have trained together. I've seen even on Instagram you guys on runs and stuff like that, and it's been talked about. Has she been a training partner in the past, and how has that kind of worked as far as finding training partners like where you're living?
Yeah, honestly, when I first came to Bozeman, I think we moved here in September, October of 2020. I just was briefly in Boise, then came here. And Grayson was actually a big pull because she was living here in 2020 at the time. And so I was like, I've got, an immediate person I can train with. We didn't know each other super, super well, but we had raced because we were both in Pac-12. And so we had like raced each other in college multiple times and knew of each other. And so when I came here, I kind of immediately started training with her. She was doing, at that point it was kind of winter time. So she was doing a lot of road running and track running. So, we did a lot of stuff together. She ended up leaving, I think, May of 2021. So we weren't actually in Bozeman for that long together at first. But yeah, after she left, I started working with, as soon as I moved here, I started working with the MSU coach, Lyle Weiss. And so he was my coach for about 4-ish years, maybe just over. And so I would work out a lot with the MSU team, which honestly was like huge. Like guess I didn't have a team anymore, but I kind of did because I kind of just came and started working out with like a lot of times I'd run with the MSU guys team. If I could keep up, I would just try to be like tagging along. And so that was like I think really good for me to come from college and not just like immediately have to be by myself. And to have someone like Grayson who had been running professionally for a couple years already as a mentor, and then also to have like this big group of people that I could kind of jump in with whenever worked and fit in. So yeah, so honestly, for like 4 years, I trained with pretty much with just Montana State University, which was great. So that was always like a very helpful thing to have.
Super cool. What was it like as far as like training with them? Like, can you like access the facilities? Like, you can use all their weight room and stuff like that. Like, is it pretty much like just like being an athlete, like on the team, kind of?
Yeah, I didn't really use their weight room or anything like that, but I just I would mostly, you could use the indoor track whenever, and I usually would just go when they went to. And I also was like assistant, kind of volunteer assistant coaching, so I get to travel with them a ton, which was awesome. So I feel like I was like kind of a mentor for them, but also could run with them, which was like really amazing and like helped me as a runner a ton. But yeah, I pretty much could use all the stuff, which was very convenient because I was like, hey, I need an indoor track. It's
Yeah,
-10 outside, so yeah, yeah.
that's amazing. All right, let's shift gears. I do want to get into ASICS. I find it so cool, just because I think you're the only American trail-ish ASICS athlete right now, ish.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So you signed this professional contract. You're on the roads mostly, and this was the year you came over and you started doing. I mean, we'll talk about your season. Obviously, it was super dominant, and you kind of did, a little bit of both. How does that work as far as like you as a professional? Like, is that totally fine? Like with you to be able to mix it up on the trails and the track? Like, is that supported?
Yeah, I mean that's what was like amazing. Love ASICS. I work with Ben Caesar. He's the guy who I work with at ASICS, and I was kind of nervous, to like bring it up. I kind of, I waited till I think it was May or something of this last year, and I had been intrigued because my boyfriend runs 100Ks, Adam and Aaron. I go see them running 100K, 100 miles, and I'm like, ooh, this is fairly intriguing. And I was like, for a while, I was like, no, dumb, not doing that. And then I was like, finally, it kind of got to me. I was like, oh, it looks kind of fun. And I do train on trails a lot too. So I was just like, it kind of makes sense. As a kid growing up, like I used to love we did like these trail races straight up big mountain to ski hill. So I was like, makes sense. But I wanted to kind of do a trail run race first, a local one to like see how it went. Cause I was like, if this is terrible, I'm going to double, rethink this decision. And so it went pretty good. And I was like, okay, I just did one in Helena, Montana, which was super fun, hour and a half away from here. And then I was like, you know what? I feel like that was decent. I don't really know what I'm looking at. So like, I think it went well. And so then I was like, I'll reach out to Ben Caesar with ASICS, and he was so supportive. Like they've been amazing. Like he was super stoked about it. I think, their trail shoes have come a long way. Like all their stuff has come pretty far. So I think they were pretty excited to have somebody like, that's already with them that would be excited to kind of jump into the trail scene. And they've been like supportive. They've, pretty much kind of left it up to me whether or not I want to continue to do roads or if I want to do trail or if I want to do a mix of both. I do want to do a mix of both still. So I definitely will be doing some, I don't know if it's going to be 50-50 or, 30-70. But I definitely kind of want to do both, but they've been like so supportive, which has been really helpful with this.
So cool. Well, and I think it's
Yeah.
a super doable thing. And at least for short trail, I can say
Hmm.
it seems to work out really well. I mean, now you've seen, obviously Grayson was kind of
Yep.
as far as on the trail side, kind of paved the way. On a Gibson, there's plenty of women out there that are so strong on both sides that are able to do it and have successful careers doing it. I'm really excited to, especially after the season that you just had, to see you like out here crushing. And I'll just speak for, and let me know if I missed any of these. Race Don't Fence Me In, which is a
Oh yeah, my
25K.
first one.
Second overall, first place. You raced Kodiak, obviously. We'll get into Kodiak. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then I think the one that stuck out for me the most, just because like I love the mountain classics and the VKs, is like fifth place overall at the Rut VK, like, and first place woman. And then you beat Joan by a minute. Poor Joan. Shout out to Joan.
Yeah, hey, you did. You did all three, right? Yeah, I feel like that. Did he do the trifecta? Yeah, so that's okay. He was probably taking it easy then.
But yeah, what an insane, like, just little dabbling in the sport. I just gotta ask you, like, what excites you about it right now? Like, what has your intrigue as far as the trails go?
Yeah, honestly, it's been, like kind of looking at the roads, like I feel like I've been like kind of hitting my head on this wall I had a couple years where I was pretty injured, and then like coming back has been hard because I'm like, looking at these marathoners and, not to be like negative, but like I'm not going to run 2:12. So it's like, I kind of like one of those things where it's like you're trying to find your space in the sport. And I was just kind of like, I don't know where I'm feeling with this, with the, I want to still run a really fast marathon, but like, where am I at with this? And then the trail stuff really was intriguing me. And, I think there's a lot to be like explored in the trail world. I think it's like becoming really big right now. It's been a big thing, but I think all of a sudden it looks to be pretty much kind of exploding, like kind of all around the world. And so I was like, this looks, fun. And like, maybe I had this like kind of theory where like, maybe if I work on more trails, I'll get a lot stronger and like work on all those like little muscles and like the quad muscles and the power. And, maybe I can bring that back over to the roads and maybe run better on the roads. So I was kind of like testing out this thing. So it made it honestly like, it took a little bit of pressure, especially once ASICS was, on board and behind it. It takes some of the pressure off of, I would say, each of them, because especially if I'm doing both, to kind of be like, let's do the best I can at each one of these, but I'm kind of going to do the ones that's making me more happy at the time, which I think if you're happier, you're going to run better. And so that was the biggest intrigue for me. Was I was excited about trail running, more excited than I had been about road running. And I just was like, let's jump in and give it a try and see what happens. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. Now, you got this year, you kind of like mixed it up. You got a chance to do the VK, which is a super iconic race. I love the rut and everything that they do. But you also got to do as far as the 50K. Seeing friends and family kind of race the longer stuff, is there more intrigue to do the longer stuff, or is it like just short trail kind of call to you right now?
Well, for sure. I mean, I definitely would like to do some of those, like, 100K. Would love to get, a chance to run Western states, those type of things. I'm kind of trying to, not be too greedy at first and just kind of work my way there too. I think, with where I'm at with road running, doing this trail running has kind of like re-sparked a love for road running, which has like been very cool to see. And, road running, even track running, I've kind of been excited about, which is like have not been for like a year or so. And so I'm like, I think with like where I'm at there, where I do want to continue running some on the roads, I think like honestly the best thing for me right now is to kind of stick to something like the 50K and down. But definitely in the next couple of years, yeah, we'll probably move up to trying out some 100Ks and maybe even 100 mile.
Okay. No, I like it. You know what? I'm curious to ask you this because, like, but I think it was right after or somewhere in the time frame of Don't Fence Me In, we had the Sunapee Scramble, which was the mountain classic.
Oh yeah.
For the world selection team. Did that ever cross your mind to like go there and mix it up, or was it, let me just test this out first and just see how I like it? Or did the idea of like maybe trying to get on Team USA without really like, doing a ton at, like in background wise, like did that kind of cross your mind at all?
It did cross my mind. I gotta say, I was like terrified of the first one. So I was like, I gotta hide and I need this to be as like low key as I possibly can. I'm gonna drive the day before and get there. So for that one, I definitely was like, I wanted to do a local one. The Broken Arrow one did cross my mind a little bit with, trying to do, because at that point I'd run one. I'd run the Helena one. And I was like, okay, maybe I could do that. But I had planned on grandma's marathon. So I was like, I'll just do grandma's. I almost switched it. I had a couple times, like I was pretty back and forth. ASICS was all for like, they're like, do what you want to do. If you don't want to do grandma's, you can do Broken Arrow. But I was still a little bit scared because, I'm definitely like technically not the best trail runner. And so I'm working on my like technical skills with that. And I was like, Broken Arrow might be kind of hard. And so I honestly, and I didn't really know like what a VK was like. I'd never done one before. So, now looking back, I almost kind of wish I would have just gone and done the VK. But I think it kind of worked out good because I think, I slowly did it and, didn't do anything that was like too outside of my, where I was like scared to do it at first. I was definitely scared to do the VK and scared for Kodiak, but like I felt like a little more comfortable by that point. So yeah.
What did you think of the VK? Because that's such a different. I mean, I don't know. It's basically a 400 as hard as you can go, like for
40 minutes.
Yeah, basically. What was your thought on that as far as the climbing and just because I would argue that's one of the more technical. Not that we have a lot of VKs in America, but that's probably the most technical VK we have.
Yeah, I was honestly signed up for it and then was like, oh my God, why did I do that? But then, I got there and I was so nervous. Like I mean, I get to these marathons and stuff now and I feel like I'm nervous, but you're like, oh, I've got 26 miles to figure this out. So, and I've kind of done it so many times that I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable with this. With the VK, I was like, felt like I was back in college running like a mile. And I was like so nervous. And I was, I loved it. It was so fun. It was like terrible, but so fun. If that makes sense. Like I would definitely like to do, I'm kind of surprised because I kind of thought like, oh, I'll do it. And it's going to be because everybody was like, yeah, VKs are horrible. And I was like, okay, sounds good. But it was really like, I guess I would compare it to like an all out, yeah, like mile. Honestly, it's probably similar to like if you run a 5K right in track, it's pretty horrible from lap 1 to lap 12.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, if you do it right. And so I think honestly that VK would probably compare to something like that. And I haven't done an effort like that in a long time. I've definitely been more like half marathon. So I kind of liked it, and I think I want to do some more of them.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear it. Especially with the ASICS background and ASICS now with, I don't know, two men this past year on the podium of UTMB and stuff like that. I know there's a lot of brand pull to want to have an audience there and stuff like that. Then you go obviously and run Kodiak, win that. I would assume that's for you to go do OCC next year. Is that
Yeah.
I guess correct guess?
Yeah, that is a correct guess. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I watched all of that. I mean, I've been like following UTMB, CCC, like OCC, those races for a while now, just with, Adam Peterman and Aaron Clark in them. And so just like, good friends, and I like to follow along. And, Tabor, those, everybody there. So I feel like they've been very intriguing, like those ones. I just feel like too, it's a big stage. So it would be definitely a little bit out of my comfort zone. It's definitely less runnable than like something like Kodiak for sure. But I definitely was very intrigued by trying to qualify it and qualify for it and want that challenge of like, I don't know, I'd love to do really well at OCC. That's kind of my like big one of 2026 will be, OCC.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
So what else, since we're on that topic of 2026, I know this is really hard to kind of like look ahead and start to plan stuff, but I feel like as trail runners, we're all kind of planners. We're all kind of like, oh, this looks cool. That looks cool. I would assume maybe we'll see you at Broken Arrow as well. Is that something else that's on the list, or yeah?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've got a couple written down, but yeah, Broken Arrow is on there, and maybe Canyons, 50K would be on there, to get another one of those. But yeah, I think I'll do, honestly, at the beginning of the year, I'm probably I thought about a marathon, but I'm probably just gonna do some, some half marathons and that type of thing to kind of get my speed, up and like kind of keep it up, and then kind of transition to more like longer trail stuff for, end of April. A little bit hard to get on some trails here too in Bozeman in the wintertime. So we'll have to go find some somewhere. But yeah, so that, would maybe start with Canyons in April.
Okay. On the topic of canyons, and this is just stylistically in general, different things get different people out of bed in the morning. With your speed and your background, is something like that's flatter, faster, more interesting to you, or is it more the mountainous stuff that kind of like calls to you?
Definitely, I mean, definitely the more runnable, I would say, is like only because I'm more comfortable with it. So I think, those are more like, I'm like, I feel more comfortable going into it, but I also think like the more mountainous ones are like scary to me, which is kind of fun. Like I haven't felt like super scared of a race until I started doing some trail running. And I kind of like that feeling. Like it's like kind of fun to go into it being very nervous for something and like feel like you do have a lot to, I mean, I feel like there's a lot to work on that I have to like get to those mountainous ones, which seems fun to me. It seems like it's like you have to definitely be more skilled to do well at those. So I think it's like good to learn. I haven't felt like, I mean, I feel like there's like definitely a lot of improvement I can do in the marathon and stuff, but I feel like skill wise, it's more just like, oh, let me work hard, run these paces more, that type of thing. Whereas like with the trail stuff, it's like, oh no, I need to get on some, I need to actually get better at running on a trail. So that's kind of, that's intriguing for sure.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Like it's funny. I spitball this with my coach all the time. We always talk about, because I find myself, especially in the off season, I do, more road running and just more stuff on the track for my workouts and stuff. And I always worry, I'm like, am I going to lose like certain muscular adaptations that I've made? And that's where obviously the gym is really important and stuff like that. Do you spend a lot of time and like do lifts and stuff like that, or lift and do a lot of like cross training? Like, what is your kind of your background like for that?
Yeah, honestly, I actually hate lifting. I know it's good for you. I do go in twice a week, and I do some sort. I like to also do some like strength Pilates, which I've kind of stolen from a lot of the Australian runners. And so I've been doing some of that, but that's more just like I usually try to do like maybe once a week on the side. And then yeah, I go into the gym like, I try to get in for sure once a week. And then I do try to get in also, I'll try to get in twice a week too. And it's not anything like very amazing that you see, but I definitely try to work in there to get, strength up in the knees and everything. I have some weird knees. So, I try to do like, some squats and that type of thing. But that's something I've been doing for like, I guess, my whole pro career is just going to the gym a couple days a week. And then cross training, I was pretty injured like 2 years ago for like a year and a half. And so I got really into gravel biking. And so that was great. So I do a lot, like if I am going to cross train, I usually will try to gravel bike. In Bozeman, it's like pretty easy to cross country ski. So I also will do some cross country skiing here in the wintertime for some like cross training. So I feel like most of the time I'm just running because I am kind of a high volume person and I do like to like just log a lot of miles. But when I'm feeling like I need it, I'll add in some of those type of cross training things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I want to go back in time a little bit and talk about just like what it's like growing up in Montana. Because I guess I want to thread that with the cross country skiing aspect, because I feel like if you grow up in Montana, you have access, and skiing is really, really good, obviously. What was it like for your upbringing? Obviously, lots of time on trails, lots of time in the outdoors. Would you say like that's the kind of where your love for the outdoors and trails comes from? Or do you think it was more like mom and dad that kind of like facilitated that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my parents are awesome. They've taken us out and like we've been in nature for like we did tons of stuff outside growing up, which is like definitely on them. Like, thank you, mom and dad, for doing that. But no, we were actually huge. Like, my first love was actually snowboarding. And so I got really into snowboarding. We didn't do a ton of like we did like Nordic skiing as a family, not like I'm pretty bad at it. I think it's a very good cross training tool, but I'm like bad. But we would do it as a family for fun, mostly just like going out on logging roads and just classic skiing. And then we would go up to, we would go up to Big Mountain, which is now called Whitefish Mountain Resort in Whitefish, Montana. And we would camp at the ski hill every weekend, literally from when I was in second grade to when I graduated high school. And we would just snowboard, a snowboard or ski, all weekend. So I think those were things that, I think I worked on a lot of different, I didn't just run, 7 days a week when I was kind of growing up. We did a lot of different things like that. Like, we would just go be outside all the time. We did a lot. My dad builds canoes, cedar canoes and kayaks and stuff for a living. We also do a lot of like, kayaking in the spring and the summer and the fall too. So we were outside a lot. So I think honestly, just like being outside so often and like them giving us the opportunities to like do all these fun things like skiing and snowboarding and cross country skiing, kayaking, like everything like that definitely has like sparked a love for the outdoors. And yeah, we were on trails all the time. My dad would we definitely ran them like way too hard. Like, we didn't understand how to run trails. But we were like, oh yeah, sprint as fast as you can. Oh, awesome. And I was like, why are they so hard? But yeah, I feel like we definitely did a lot of those growing up.
I got to ask you this, because I ask every Montana/Wyoming athlete this: the grizzly bear situation.
Oh, it's terrible.
In Colorado, we obviously don't have grizzly bears. I think that's probably a good thing. But I don't know. Grizzly bears are also really cool, so no disparagement against grizzly bears. But still, you have them there. What is it like running on trails with grizzlies all the time, or like at least they're there, more or less? Like, is it a healthy understanding of not going on certain trails during certain times of the year, or is it, just kind of be aware of your surroundings? Like, maybe kind of paint that picture.
Yeah, great question. So I'm not brave, gotta say. There are brave people, not one of them. And so I, growing up in the Flathead, I didn't grow up like in town. I definitely grew up outside of town. And we would see, there's less now, but we would see grizzly bears. We ran with bear spray all fall, like even like on our roads, just like around our house. 'Cause we would see like multiple mamas and two cubs. And a couple times they would chase your car, and you're like, okay, well, if they're going to chase a car, what are they going to do to a human? I think they were more like curious about it, but like, we were like, oh God. So and we did. And then there's been multiple times where we were like running my dad loves to go run on logging roads. So we would go run on all kinds of logging roads, kind of like in Swan Lake, kind of heading up towards the Bob Marshall area. And there's, we would see them. We scared a couple. I've seen them fall out of a tree right next to you because it's been a young one and they get scared. So, I mean, I definitely see some. I actually had my most recent, I haven't had an encounter with one, I guess, for like 3 years, maybe. The last one was up in the Swan when I was running with my dad and my friend, and we scared one of them out of a tree. And he like fell down, and then we're like, oh my God, stop. And I'm one of those people where my boyfriend told me he's added like, there's like fight or flight. He's added a third response. It's called escalate. So I apparently escalate the situation and I flight. So I'm like not good in those situations at all. And so we saw one this summer. We were way back in the Beartooth Wilderness, which is a couple hours from Bozeman. And we were maybe 13 miles back on this trail. And we saw a mama and a cub very close, me and one of my good friends and my boyfriend. So it was pretty scary. We were like in actually not a great situation. We had bear spray, and we got out of it okay. But the mama was not being super. She was not charging, but she wasn't ignoring us either. So it was one of those situations where I was like, wow. So you definitely in Bozeman, like, the flathead for sure, you have to be wary of it. And the Bozeman, I think, like the Bridgers, the mountain range right in Bozeman, there's more black bears there for sure. Like I think there's like an occasional passing through grizzly. So I think, just running with bear spray is important, but like kind of anywhere towards like Big Sky or Yellowstone, anything like that is gonna have grizzlies. So I honestly don't run a lot over there unless I've got like a bigger group, because no way I'm doing that by myself. And so yeah, I think that's been a big thing kind of jumping into trail running, because like more when I was, the last couple of years when I was like trail running for training, I would do more of like in-town trails. Whereas like now I'm like, oh, I do kind of have to get some vert and like get into the mountains. And so that's been like interesting, kind of picking different ones. But I'm a scaredy cat. I'd rather like loop a small one than like go way out and see a bear by myself. So yeah, definitely something where you just got to bring bear spray and be careful.
So crazy. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't believe they chased cars. What the hell?
I
That's
know.
nuts.
I haven't had that was when I was young. So I haven't had that in a little bit. That was when we were in like, I think we were in high school. But yeah, it was terrifying. We were like, oh, they weren't gonna like, I think it was the Cubs, and they were just like, what is that? And they were just chasing the Cubs, like, oh, it's a toy. Yeah, scary.
Wild. Absolutely wild.
Mhm.
I want to shift gears a little bit and talk to you about training in the sense of like blocks and pyramidization. Like, are you still working with a coach, or do you self-coach now?
Yeah, so I switched working from Lyle Weiss about just over a year ago. The Montana State coach, he was great. I just feel like we kind of wanted, I needed to shift a little bit. And then I worked with Ed Eyestone, the BYU coach, for about a year. And then I have been self-coached now since May. So it's been great. Honestly, it's been like a huge learning process. I think I've grown a lot as an athlete from it. And learned a lot like about myself, and have had to really teach myself how to like do stuff on my own again. And like it's been huge, I think. But yeah, I've been doing it on my own now for I don't know how long it is, 8 months maybe. So yeah.
Are you like a nerd about it, or is it more so like just like more relaxed? Like I know I meet some people like that are obsessed. They're like, oh, every little way to gain 1 to 2% of performance improvement, they're going for it. And then there's some people that are just like kind of, I don't know, a little more chilled and laid back on it. Like how would you fit yourself on that spectrum?
Definitely more on the chill side, I would say. I mean, I definitely I feel like kind of like a nerd when I'm writing out my training. Like I'll write out a whole 4 months at a time. Obviously, I change stuff during that time because I'm like writing it all out, but I get very excited. Like I love writing workouts. I love kind of putting them into a schedule. I'm like a pretty type A person, so like I like a nice 7-day schedule at a time. And so that for me is really fun, but I am pretty flexible. Like I kind of get to like each week, and I will definitely change stuff around based on how I'm feeling. And I think that's been nice to feel like I'm not too, like stressed out about it where I won't change anything. Whereas I feel like with a coach, I almost was like that, where it was like I felt like they assigned me something and I was like, my body's not ready, but I'm going to do it anyway because I got assigned that. Whereas like now coaching myself, I'm like, hey, let's like, I mean, even today was a good example. I like tried doing a workout yesterday, failed horribly, pushed it to today, went good. So it was one of those things where like I didn't used to do that before. And so now it kind of gives me that ability to move stuff around. And I think with adding the trail running into like my body was definitely not used to doing all that vert and, the up and the down. And so I had to really work with like, how do I feel? Do I need to push these multiple days? But yeah, I would say definitely more chill. I definitely will move stuff around as needed. And I definitely have science and like what I've learned behind it, but it's more like less sciencey and more of like, hey, I've had 4 or 5 coaches in my life. What has worked the best for me and putting it all together like that.
Interesting. Do you, especially because you are a coach, like how do you like,
Yeah.
how do you like, first of all, how do you like being a coach? And is there anything like, is there like more stuff that you can apply for yourself that you can also test out on your athletes, or like how does that work?
Yeah, great. I honestly, and that's why, like, I feel like I've kind of been slowly moving towards coaching myself for like the last couple of years. Because I have coached with Rundoyan for 2 years now, and then I did coach with Montana State University, like a volunteer coach, but I was, there every day doing that with them. So I love it. Like, I love coaching people. I love writing the workouts and like looking how it all fits together as like a whole. Like, I love writing like a big training block, like a 3-month training block, and being like, hey, change stuff when we need to, but like, here's kind of the sense of what we want it to look like. And so I think, looking into that, and I used to write a lot of my training in high school with my dad. And so I loved it. Like, I remember loving writing that. And so I was like, I think this could be really fun for me to do that because I enjoy it so much with my athletes. Maybe I can like take what I write for them and just write it for myself. And so, yeah, I feel like it taught me a lot to work with all of them. I have mostly people doing like, marathons, and a lot of people who want Boston qualifiers and that type of thing. But I feel like I've learned a lot from the athletes on, what people like. Obviously, everybody's different stuff works for everybody. I feel like it's nice to kind of see like, okay, this workout works really well for, all my athletes. So maybe I'll try it. And stuff like that. And I feel like my athletes are smart. Like, I learn stuff from them too all the time. So yeah.
So cool. Where do you find yourself now as far as like in build? Like, are you getting ready for anything in the short term that you have coming up?
Yes. So I did Kodiak, and then I was like, I was going to originally maybe do CIM, California International Marathon. I think, I've been wanting to do that one for a long time. I also feel like in my brain, I needed to have something I know that I can do after Kodiak in case Kodiak went terribly. And so I feel like I was like, all right, we're going to go for Kodiak. I kind of put a lot of my eggs in that Kodiak basket and was just like, let's go for it. This is my big race of the season. But I also was like, hey, let's have a backup in case like, not great. And so, and I still was going to do CIM, but I did kind of came out of Kodiak. I have some like knee stuff that I kind of always deal with. And I did a couple face plants in Kodiak on nothing. I fell on dirt. I don't even know what happened. And so I think I just was like trying a little bit too hard a couple times and just biffed it. So I did land on my knees. So my knee got a little wonky, after Kodiak, and I, tried to kind of come back pretty quick. So I was like, oh, I've got 8 weeks here between that and CIM. And my body just said, nope, we're done. So, I took a couple down weeks, but then, another thing that I had originally on my schedule kind of before CIM was, US cross. So I am actually going to do US cross. It's December 6th. So I've got just under a month. So I'm trying to get fast. We're working the speed.
Nice.
Yeah.
So cool. All right. I feel like I glossed over Kodiak, and I do want to get into that because, like you said, it was your A race. It was such a cool performance. First off, like how long out did you know that you were going to jump into that race? Like, had that been a plan for a while, or was it a very last second thing? Like, how were you able to, you tell me.
Yeah, kind of last minute. I mean, those UTMB races are pretty hard to get into. So I feel like, especially if you don't have any sort of score and if you don't sign up in time. And I'm so used to like, road racing is kind of different where like you just, if you're a pro road racer, you can kind of get into it's good to get into them a month or so out, or maybe more than that, but you can kind of sneak your way in, even if you're like, hey, a week before I want to do this. So I'm a little more coming from those lines. And I didn't understand how hard it was to get into these trail races. I was like, what is this? So I did run, the Don't Fence Me In, which was scored under, they've scored it in UTMB. And so I got a 20K score with that. And I emailed Paula. I love Paula. She's great. And I forgot her last name, but she works with UTMB. And Paula. Yeah, go Paula. Love her. She got me in this race, so love Paula. But I was so annoying. I literally emailed Paula, I'm not joking, 45 times. And I was like, please let me in. I asked her every week, do you have any openings? Cause she was like, you got a high 20K score, but you don't have a 50K score. So I was just like, I don't care. I'll pay. Doesn't matter. Just give me a spot. So it honestly took, I can't remember when she said that they were going to open up spots. I had to, I paid for my spot, but I was like, I don't care. Just give me anything. And so I can't remember when that was, but it was kind of the summer. It was after Don't Fence Me In. It was after I talked to ASICS just to see like, hey, is that an option for me to do a 50K? And then, then I think it was probably June or July that I kind of like officially signed up for that. Probably July by the time they let me in. But yeah, very, very happy to get into it.
So cool. All right. So you're in the race. Is it weird for you? Like, do people were you recognized at all? Were people like, oh, like I know who that girl is? Like, as far as like on the start line or something like that, or are you still a little anonymous to where they're not quite sure because they don't really know the road scene?
I feel like a lot of trail runners don't know the road scene. There definitely are people who do know the road scene who I think like at these races, like there was I don't know how many people. I think some of the pro people at the front maybe knew. And there was a couple of people that I had know anyway, that knew probably, a couple of the women that I've met before, and or met through Grayson or something that that probably knew. And so, but yeah, I think a majority of people didn't really know, other than maybe like, oh, she's wearing an ASICS jersey, which we don't see very often in U.S. trail races.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's part of the reason why I asked too. Yeah, we don't see a lot of ASICS singlets, and also I don't know. I think it's kind of cool too to have a little bit of anonymity, because very soon, like, everybody's going to know who you are in the trail space. So it's like, enjoy it, soak it in, soak it in while you can.
Yep. Yeah. I kind of liked it. I was like, this is nice, because I feel like, I don't know, the road stuff can get so hyped and like it's great and it's super fun, but it was like a little bit nice to almost be like a little more low key and just like, okay, I'm gonna go into this. It took some of the pressure off too, because I was like very nervous, and I definitely wanted to come into Kodiak and do really well at my first like big trail race. But there was, a part of me too that was unsure how I was gonna go, because I was like, I've never run this far, never run this long, so who knows how it'll go.
How did the race unfold for you? Like, obviously from the outside looking in, like the reels and everything and seeing video, like, you looked very smooth, looked calm, looked composed. How did the race like actually go for you? Like, did it play out that way, or was it like a shit show? Like, how did it go?
It was kind of a shit show at the beginning. So I like started and I felt great. Like the first like four, I was like clicking along. I think I had a pretty decent lead by like 4.5 miles, because it's really runnable. It's like kind of more flat. And I was like, okay, this is in my wheelhouse for sure. And then, the first climb, the first and biggest climb of the Kodiak one is at 4.5 miles. And I was following a couple pro guy trail runners who I had kind of picked out before the race, from their Strava. I stalked them. And I was like, ooh, these people are people I can probably run with. And I was like, so I picked them and I was running behind them. And I had run parts of the course too, kind of leading up to the race, because my boyfriend and I were there for the week before. Because I was pretty nervous about like getting lost, because I'm not very good at directions. And so I we were going, and this was a pretty easy spot to not miss. Like, you should definitely not miss the spot that we missed. And I kind of was head down. I think they were the same, head down. And it was kind of a left turn up to go on this like little single track trail. We just keep running, and we're on this like fire road. I'm like, oh, I ran this section, 4 days ago. And I was like, I do not remember running on a fire road. And so we kind of got I think we got just over half mile up, and from where I think we took the wrong turn. And I asked I think his name is Cole Watson, was one of the guys. Yeah. And he's a very good runner, but I think he's been kind of injured. So I would normally not be able to run with him, but I was like, okay, maybe coming back from his injury, I could run with him. And so it was great. He was there actually, because he was like, oh, I think we went the wrong way. And I was like, what do you do? I like freaked out, because I was like, you don't go the wrong way in road races. Like, I was like, what do you mean we went the wrong way? And so then I'm like, okay, well, do I cut over? Like, do I go? And there was this massive ravine. So I was like, I don't even think I can get over there to the trail. And so then he's like, no, you have to go back down, or else you're going to get disqualified. And I was like, what? I was like, excuse me, I have to go back down? And so, yeah, he's like, no, you got it. Like, I'm sorry, you got to go back down. Thank goodness for him for telling me that, because I'm sure I would have tried to bushwhack. I almost quit. Because I felt so discouraged, because I was like, I'm 4.5 miles into this. Like, I can't believe I took this far of a wrong turn. So I think I went back on Strava, and I think I lost like 8 or 9 minutes. It was about a mile that I lost there. So I came back down, and then I was like, so that from there, I feel like my whole mentality kind of shifted a little bit to just like getting back in front. Whereas like before, I was like, let's see how fast I can run this course. Let's see how fast I can do this. And so, after that, it was kind of like, okay, I gotta try to win now. And I think I came back into the trail. And I think I was in 12th or 14th. I can't remember, for females. I thought I was like fairly aggressive asking these women, but they said after that I was very nice. So that's good. Because I was worried. I was like, I'm sorry if I like yelled at you and was like, what place am I in? I did ask. Yeah. But they said I asked it nicely, which I kind of doubt, but that's nice of them to say. And so I apparently, I asked what place, and they're like, hey, I think you're in 12th or 14th. I can't remember. And I was like, oh my God. And so I made a kind of rookie mistake then too, of trying to catch everybody in like 3 miles. So that was a really bad idea. I realized that now after the race and in the middle of the race. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. But yeah, I would say that was kind of the biggest kind of shit show really early on. Good, I think, though, too, to, one, don't just, head down, follow people, look around and like look for flags on your own. And then I think two, to like, not I don't need to catch everybody that is in front of me in 25 minutes. Because you've got like, I had like, 26 miles left to go. And so a whole marathon, I could have taken longer. So I definitely suffered from that. Definitely a little bit in the middle of the race. I got pretty tired. I had caught everybody by then, but I was pretty tired in the middle. Like, whoa, I put a big effort out early on. But then after that, it was kind of, I ran with this, I totally forgot his name. He was awesome. I ran with this great guy for probably 15 miles. He just ran kind of right behind me the whole time. He was great because there was a couple spots. They had a windstorm the night before. So I think a lot of the flags got knocked out of the trees because there was like quite a few spots that you would get to. And I think you were just like, I mean, it'd be like a little top of a little mound and there's like 4 ways to go and there's no flag. And so the guy had, I think he had the route on his watch, which I didn't have. And so he was great. He helped me know where to go. He was like very nice because a couple times I was like dying. And so is my little friend that we didn't talk that much, but he was my friend that I ran with for a long time. I don't remember his name. But yeah, so that was honestly the rest of the race was kind of just like getting through it. It was interesting. I could tell people like with marathons, like you're running kind of as fast as you can run and you're just running that for 26 miles. And it's almost easier in a sense for I think it's easier until the wheels fall off in a marathon and then it becomes like extraordinarily hard. Whereas like in these 50Ks and trail races, like you're going up and down so many times and the terrain is different and the footing is different that I feel like you're kind of like redlining the knot and then redlining in the knot. So honestly, I think that was probably harder and I guess just more, I don't know, a little bit more like just grueling and like then that you had to just dig a little bit more than like in a marathon where you're just like, oh, I'm clicking off, 540s and this is just like what I do. And so that was like cool to kind of see and like feel that. I cramped a little bit, but that's why I was grimacing at the end. But I only cramped the last like mile and a half. So I think maybe I need to work a little bit on my hydration, but it almost worked. And honestly, if I didn't go the wrong way for a mile, it probably would have been perfect. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the whole one. But yeah, the end got really hard. So it was more just like one foot in front of the other, and just like kind of getting to the finish line.
Did you hit a mental wall like kind of after the marathon mark, or were you not even like looking at the watch and like once it started getting difficult, that's when you started feeling it?
Honestly, I feel like I more hit a mental wall in the middle, because I kind of like, I think it was after I pushed really hard to catch all the girls in front of me. I feel like at that point I was like, wow, I'm toasted. And we're like 12 miles in. And so I was like sick. I have 18 miles to go. So I think honestly from that kind of like 12 to 14 mile mark all the way to like 23, I would say that was like a mental hurdle for me. It was more just like, it was weird because I was like, you're pushing, but you're also kind of alone. Like I had that one guy that I ended up finding, but it was hard because there wasn't like a big group around you either. It's more like you have to mentally push yourself, which is cool, but also like pretty hard to do when you're feeling kind of a little bit demoralized because you're like, oh, I'm tired. And then I think once I got to 23 or 24, there was a couple aid stations along the way too, where I was going to see my dad. I think I saw my dad at, I think 24 or 25, and I knew I was going to see him there. And so I was like, just kind of like, let me get to there and then I'll just like run it in, I'll make it in from there. And he was like, yeah, you looked really tired at that one. And I was like, yeah, I was. But I made it.
What did you do for nutrition? And like, did you practice, like, I guess, I don't know, because I feel like marathon nutrition it's a different game, like trying to get all that figured out versus like something in an ultra marathon. What did you do differently, I guess?
Yeah. I think with the marathon, it's like you can, miss a little bit more in a marathon. You want to get it kind of dialed and you usually get, every 5K you get a bottle. Like it's pretty, as an elite runner, it's pretty dialed for you. But I also think there's a little more room because you're out there for, 2.5 hours, or under. And so there's a little more room to kind of miss a couple things because it's long, but it's not like horribly long. Whereas like I think in these like 50Ks and like obviously anything above a 50K, you're out there for like way longer than that. And so I think you definitely need to get in enough and not bonk. So I did practice. I practiced a lot and just a lot of my training runs and like I used mostly SIS. I like the Tutti Frutti flavor, Science and Sport, best one. And then I used some, I think in my bottles I used Skratch Superfuel in a couple of my bottles. So I think I just did Superfuel for the first couple bottles with a gel. And then for my last one, I just did a little bit of like electrolytes with like 3 or 4 gels because they're pretty easy for me to take down. I definitely think I need to work a little bit on getting a little bit more liquid in. I was trying to get in about, I think I have 5, I can't remember what they are. But I was getting in a bottle an hour, which I think was okay, but I think I could do a little bit more. So yeah, so that's it. It worked decently. I got everything in that I needed to get in. I think although I missed like 2 gels and I don't remember when I missed those. Probably the end when I was slacking out. So yeah.
How did you, it's a bit higher up in elevation than Bozeman too. How did you deal with the altitude?
Yeah, honestly, I was like, I've always done pretty well at altitude, which is good. Just like, I don't know why. I mean, I was where I grew up in the Flathead, like 3,000 feet elevation. So it's not super high. I've now been at like close to 5,000 feet, since college and then now for, maybe 10 years now. So, I think, but I've always noticed even in college, we would go up to long runs at 9,000 feet and I usually would do pretty well. So probably just genetics that I lucked out with that. But I think that, yeah, I do okay with that. I was nervous about that though, because I think the whole race is like pretty much between like 66 to 8,000 feet, of elevation, which is pretty high. And I noticed it. You can definitely like, the pushing it, redlining it was definitely harder. And then you could just tell with like your lungs and your breathing, you're like, yeah, I'm getting tired a lot faster and at a little bit slower pace than I would, at 5,000 feet in Bozeman. So I think just like going into that and being a little bit cautious there with that one was good and not, hammering. I was going fairly hard the first like 4 or so before I got lost, but I think that, I was also holding back a little bit, just like knowing that I was high up elevation. So yeah.
I guess that's another good question too, is like knowing the pacing for a 50K. Because it's like, all right, do I just sit at threshold the whole time, or like what am I? It's kind of hard to nail because if you go too hard, as you know, like it doesn't usually end well. It's pretty ugly.
Yeah, you're dying. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, how did you have an idea of like what to pace that at, or just like whatever, especially being your first time?
Yeah, I honestly think like I did, that Don't Fence Me In Helena. And then I did actually a trail race that was like 24 miles just in Bozeman. It's on the Bangtail mountain range in July. It was just like a really small one that's just, in local people here. And so I think like I tried just practicing, just going off of like feel in those. And I do wear my heart rate monitor on it. I don't check it super often, which maybe I should more. I definitely think there's a lot for me to learn on like the pacing and everything. Like the marathons, so simple. You like train for a certain pace and then you run that pace and then you like look at your watch and you're like, perfect, right on. But like, yeah, the 50Ks, it's like the pace is like doesn't totally matter. It's more like the effort and probably like your heart rate, on a lot of that stuff. But I have noticed in both those races and even Kodiak, my heart rate stayed really, really similar the whole time, even on the ups and the downs. Like obviously a little bit higher on the ups, but I was able to keep it pretty good on the down too. And I don't really, I think I've just run so much threshold that it was probably just right around my low threshold, like zone 3. So I don't know. Maybe I just know how to do that. Maybe my body just kind of falls into that. But yeah, I was kind of around that, but I need to probably work on it.
It just kind of knows what to do. That's so
Yeah,
interesting.
it just knows what to do.
Yeah. It's just like, all right.
Yeah, I think it does. I didn't try. I don't know. It just did.
Do you like? I guess it's kind of different. I mean, everybody's a little bit different. But in training, are you like married to heart rate at all, or is it more so, like you said, just like more so married to pacing?
I have always been more, I like, mileage and pacing, which is probably something I'll have to adjust as I get more into the trail world. I do wear like a heart rate monitor, not every day. Like on my easy days, I usually forget, but I try to wear it like every time I have a workout or long run. And I like to go back and look at it after, or, in a workout, if there's a time when I'm like, oh my gosh, like I am like dying right now, I'll look at my heart rate and I can be like, oh, hey, like slow down. You're like really going into upper threshold, which is not necessary right now. And so that's been like, it's just like more of a helpful tool for me to look at. And like, but I do like, assigning, obviously you can't do this on the trails, but like if I do a road workout or track, I like having paces. But I think I'll have to learn a little bit more for sure how to look at the heart rate a little bit more and go off more efforts, in time versus, paces and miles.
Interesting. All right, I got 2 questions for you. Especially going into next year. One, do you know much about the Golden Trail Series? Because I would love to see you race series and all. Like I hope, because like I know people that are decision makers there do listen to this sometimes. Like I would love to see you go over and like do series and all, because that's like obviously it's a marathon distance or a little bit less than a marathon distance, and some of the best marathoners in the world and just road athletes in the world go and race it. So it's kind of that intersection of both. Is that something you'd go do?
I would love to. It's on my radar for sure because I think it's like, it's kind of up my alley. It's like straight up for a while, which I love for some reason. And then it's like seems just like more runnable of a course. Obviously, I think the last little descent is a little bit more technical. But it's definitely on my radar. The only thing is I think it's 3 weeks before OCC, like exactly 20 days. And so I'm trying to get input because, I have been very excited about that one. That was definitely one I wrote down really early on, like right after Kodiak. And so I just don't know, like, is that dumb to do those? I might pick one or save one for like next year, or I'll try to do both. Who knows? So trying to kind of reach out to people and see, like, what is the smartest thing to do here? I've also never really traveled overseas for a race, so I also have to figure that out. So
yeah. All right. On actually on that topic for ASICS, you probably can't answer this. Maybe you could just give a wink or like a yes or a no. Or, like, do you have an idea if we're gonna see more ASICS US athletes? Like, is that a possibility in the future?
I actually don't know on that. I'm not just saying that. I'm assuming probably yes. I'm just like, I feel like they're putting a lot of money and time into, their trail shoes and their trail gear and everything, and it's good. And, I think they've got a great European team. And so I think I could definitely see them getting some athletes on that trail roster for the US. I think it's for sure coming. I don't know exactly when, but I think it definitely.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. Second, to piggyback off that, I guess, like, because I mean, I know last year they did. I know they make like housing and stuff like that available for UTMB athletes and athletes that go over there, which is pretty cool. That'll be kind of like, I guess, new for you, which would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I didn't really. I think I kind of briefly talked to them about that stuff, but I want to talk to them more because they said they had like a house that they had, which I was like, ooh, cool. That will be, that would be great. I know my parents might be there, so who knows where I'm staying. But I was like, that's amazing that they kind of have that for their athletes, and it would be great. I would love to meet all the European ASICS athletes and pick their brains. How do I trail run? That'd be great. Yeah.
That's so cool. All right, one more question. This one's also going to be out of left field, just completely different as we start to wind down. Have you ever heard of the Cirque Series? Because I'd also love to see you do a Cirque Series race next year. Like,
yes,
there's one not far from you in Montana, like down in Targhee. It's not that far.
Yes, I have heard of Cirque Series. I honestly think I don't know how much they're in my. I feel like they're like, maybe I could do good. I think I could do good on the up. I think I would look really, really bad on the down. And so I think it could be like a very good like training thing. And I definitely almost, I talked to, I think one of the guys who is the head of the Cirque Series. And so I'd like to maybe do one or two next year, just to, like, I think great training, it'd make me run fast on stuff I'm not super comfortable running fast on downhill, which I think would be great training. I think that would be good. It definitely seems like I definitely feel like I like a little bit longer stuff than that. Or I guess shorter, just the VK, just straight up and then end at the top. And so I like that. But yeah, I think honestly the Golden Trail Series is, both those are pretty intriguing things. And I think, I think I'll probably do like dabble in some of them. I don't know if I'd do like the whole Golden Trail Series or like all Cirque Series, but it'd be fun to, like, pick some races to put into the schedule for training and just, like, see how those go.
So cool. Well, Makena, thank you so much for coming on the pod. This is a great conversation. I'm so happy I caught you kind of like at the beginning of your trail, of your trail career, which is awesome. And yeah, I can't wait to have another conversation with you after next season, after you win all these amazing accolades and we get to hear all about it. So I'm excited. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's been so great.
Yeah, thanks. Awesome. We're done recording. Cool. Thank you so much. That was awesome.